Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Soul Symphony. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into my channel. My name is Z. I hope the information you find here helps you if you're on a healing journey. If you are not on one, that's okay too. And if you're not on one, just pass it along to whoever might need it. So today I'll go over the fear of rejection, right? So unlike the fear of abandonment, sometimes we tend to actually those two kind of interchange them, but they're not the same. So we have to make sure that we understand the difference. The fear of abandonment is a deep rooted fear of being left out. And a fear of, it's not, I would not say left out, but more like being left behind. A fear of rejection is the deep rooted fear of being left out, excluded out of something. And the deep of the fear of rejection is more like to be left out behind, somebody just leaving us and just disappearing. And the fear of a rejection is not necessarily the person can be there, but the person can refuse to actually interact with us or can exclude us from a specific task, a specific interaction with other people. And it's like in the case of bullying, for example, right? Unfortunately, in the case of bullying in school, children will be on the playground playing, and then they will say they will play maybe tic-tac-toe, right? And then they will tell one child, no, you cannot play with us, just sit there, you know. So that's literally excluding that child. And that unfortunately can be something that can develop just interacting around with other people. And the biggest thing is really the word no. Is for when it comes to fear of rejection, is the word no. It's like sometimes when we have a puppy, right? I have observed that when we had our dog when I was a kid. And when we say no to our dog will feel the most disappointed out of any and everything else. She used to feel so disappointed, and then she would just retrieve herself and go sit in a corner. And so human beings, right, it's pretty much the same thing. If a child grows up and we say no to that child all the time, every time, I want to do this, no. I want that, no. Can I come and sit next to you guys? No. Any and everything is a no. Eventually, that child will learn that I don't belong here. It seems like nobody wants me here. And they will feel excluded. They will feel rejected. They will feel not wanted in that environment. So that's the fear of rejection. Unfortunately, that's something that we pick up in childhood. We pick that in childhood. It can be from home, from school. It can be from older family members, you know, especially for people who have big family members, or in certain cultures, children can go and spend time with older family members. So that's something that unfortunately is something that we can develop in childhood by just hearing that word no all the time, every time. And sometimes there's no specific explanation. So therefore, the child always will believe that it's their fault. They're just not wanted. They're just not desired. They're not there to. They're not included into nothing because of always that word no. And that's the reason it's very important for us. Even when we say no, it's a good idea for us um, to include the explanation. Hey, no, you cannot do that right now, but you can do it maybe later, or not right now. The word no itself is a triggering word for children when it comes to having the fear of a rejection later in life. So not learning for us learning to replace the word no with still a negation term that means still no, but not necessarily just the firm no, right? That's something that will help the child understanding that it's not just we don't want you to be here, or we don't want you to do this with us, or you do just not want it here. It's more like it's a timing thing. This is not the right time. You can do it in 2 hours, or you can do it tomorrow, or you can wait after dinner, or you can wait, whatever it is. The reason is that we are trying to tell the child no. Just learning how to reframe that will be a great, actually, it will be a great attribute for us to teach that child that it's not, they still want it, it's still okay to do what they need to do, but it's still just a timing matter. It's a timing matter. So that they learn that it's not always just you rejected, you're not included, right? Um, so because unfortunately they end up feeling shrink. They feel like it's not just the feeling of not being wanted or not being included. It's more like I feel small. I don't feel good enough for this family because everybody can do what they want to do. And when it comes to me, I just can never do nothing, right? Or I can just never get nothing because because I'm less than, because I'm not as good as the rest of the family members who get to do the same thing, right? And therefore it can really be negative. It can have a negative impact on the self-worth. I'm not worthy enough for me to be in this family, therefore I'm not allowed to do those things. Or it's more like, well, if I do ABCD, maybe they will allow me to do it. So therefore that's when the people pleasing comes into play. I'm going to do what I need to do to make them happy so they can actually include me. And that is something that we see mostly also. Children who grew up in environments like that, they grew up being adults the same way. They will try to include themselves in certain clubs, not only by including themselves in certain clubs, but they would not just include themselves because they're worthy of being in those clubs. It's more like I'll bargain myself into those clubs. I'll go ahead and make sure that I pay for I don't know if they hang out on the weekend. Hey guys, I'll pay for the rounds if, they have drinks that they go to. Or make sure that, if we playing golf, I'll make sure that I pay for that extra cart for everybody. Or I'll make sure that I'll do XYZ, right, for everybody. So it's more like going out of their way to please everybody else in order for them to be included in that group. So we see that a lot. Or in also workplaces. Hey, there's a project everybody have to do, right? There will be that one person probably. That's how we kind of know that that's kind of how it manifests, unfortunately, some of the symptoms in adulthood. That one person that will say, hey, you guys don't have to worry about doing, more than half of the stuff. I'll just do it. You guys don't have to worry about all the things. I'll do it. Just to feel that, hey, they will be received properly in the group, in that project, right? Instead of just allowing everybody to have their section, to do their own section, and then everybody come and put it together and make it one complete task, that one person will step and try to do the most, right? So that they can feel included, they can feel accepted in that specific project. But then that's also in the detriment of their own time, because if you're doing everybody more than everybody's work, that means everybody else will be sleeping and you'll be up late, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, still trying to accomplish everybody's task when you should have just left everybody do their own task and then bring it together. So that's something that we should always be mindful of. Even sometimes that we want to help people, but we have to be mindful at the detriment of whom. Is it at my detriment? Is it at the group's detriment? And just let everybody do their part, right? Which is equally, it's an it's equally distributed. So when we try to take the biggest portion of everything, it's unequal because we're doing it on our own detriment, right? So let everybody do what they're supposed to do, as long as it's equally, it's an equal distribution. So therefore it's okay. We're not trying to take advantage of no one. So by actually doing what we do, by taking everybody's task, we allowing them to unconsciously take advantage of us, and voluntarily take advantage of us. They didn't volunteer to do it, but we volunteer to let them do it. So they involuntarily still doing it. So the fear is, let's say that the fear is very much something that we all have up to a certain extent. We all have up to a certain extent, but it can be overwhelming for people who actually grew up in environments that have always been not included, excluded in tasks, excluded in family functions, excluded in different things that are happening around them. And all of us, we all have that. We all have a slight fear of something, a slight off something, fear of, hey, I'm going to a new place, or I'm going to a new conference. I don't know how it's gonna happen. I don't know if I'm gonna get along with everybody, right? That's a slight fear of, but it's not necessarily a fear of rejection, but it's more like a fear of the unknown. We all have that little fear, that tiny little fear of, we don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know what will be there. So therefore, there's a slight little thing that is there, but it's not necessarily fear of rejection. But people who grew up in environments like that, most of the time, unfortunately, it's very overwhelming. And not it's not only overwhelming, it actually impacts their lives. It can impact our lives in many different ways, and in negative ways, right? Because it's the biggest thing is that it impacts our lives in negative ways because of the internalized low self-worth. We end up growing up feeling like we're not worthy enough. And it's very internalized. It's not something that we see often. That person can come out very confident or very knowing, very knowledgeable about what they're talking about, or about that specific sector they're working in. But it's not necessarily internally that they feel that they're worthy, or they feel that they're actually adequate for that specific position or that specific knowledge, right, that they're talking about. It's more like a facade, right? So it's unfortunately something that trauma can do. People can grow up in certain environments and understand over time that if I want to be able to be included in this environment, I have to be able to be adequate enough to be included. And if I know I'm not adequate, I need to figure out a way to still make people think that I'm adequate enough still. And that's when the mask and the facade comes into play. Now, not only narcissists have masks, right? Regular people have masks too. People who are not narcissists have masks too. As long as we're trying to please other people by doing something that is not necessarily in alignment with us, that's still a mask. We just have to make sure that whatever we do is in an alignment with us. We're not just doing it for the I don't know, for the likes, or for the subscriptions, or for the this, or for the that, or to, I'm not talking necessarily about YouTube, but it's just, right, something that is common, especially on I would say or the social media, right? To make sure that we're not just trying to do it because society require us to do it. And even though it's not in alignment with us, we still come out acting like if that's what we want, but it's not really that what we want, or acting like we really, this is what we align with, well, and that's not really what we align with. But again, trauma can do that, right? In order, it's having a facade or mask, or being left out. So therefore, most people, unfortunately, they'll pick, okay, I'm just gonna have the mask. I'll figure out later how to heal this wound. And then when the trauma is healed, the facade or the mask is more likely to fall and disappear because it's not in alignment to begin with. All right, so it shows when it comes to fear of rejection, it shows in our daily lives as, again, people pleasing. That's one of the biggest things. We try to please everybody. We try to keep the peace. We try to give everybody what they need. And we are self-sabotaging ourselves sometimes, even because by not giving ourselves what we want, we just making sure that everybody gets what they want, right? That's self-sabotage. That's self-abandonment. Self-sabotage and self-abandonment kind of go hand in hand. Because if, let's say, for example, right, there is at a job, there is a promotion, and I really want that promotion, right? And there is also somebody else who also wants that promotion. Even though I know that I can actually do it and get it, I will try to convince myself, right? Or I will try to tell them, oh, you got this, you got this. But then internally, I have this turmoil. I'm telling myself that I don't think I'm worthy of that position, even though I know I can get it if I apply for it, even though I can get it. So instead of applying for it, I end up just, unfortunately, letting them have it. I'll say, oh, they'll be a great candidate for it. They'll be a great they'll be great at that position. I would just go ahead and drop my application. I would drop myself out of the run for just try to get the position. That's self-sabotage. So because I convinced myself that that position is not for me, and because that position is not for me, I feel like that position is not for me, I'm more likely to do it for the other person to allow them to get that position. So that's self-sabotage. Sabotaging yourself in the detriment of yourself, in the detriment of, your own self, by abandoning yourself. We abandon ourselves a lot of times. Or another example, a simple example is, hey, I have this person I'm dating, and I really like them, or we really like each other, but the families they don't like their family don't like me, my family don't like them, right? And then I end up saying, well, because the families, they don't like him, so I'm just gonna go ahead and drop him, right? Or drop her, right? That's another example, because I understand that sometimes family, what they have to say, have a big weight or a large weight on our decision making sometimes. But again, at the end of the day, we're adults. We should be able to analyze the situation and be able to weigh the pros and cons, and then make the decision, not just solely allow the family's ideology or the family's decision to overweight our own decision and our own needs and wants, right? So that's another thing. That's self-sabotage. We really allow other people to interfere with our needs and wants, and we let go of what we want and what we need to appease other people, right? That's self-sabotage and people pleasing, both at the same time, right? And I would say rejection sensitivity is a big one, because people who have the fear of rejection are very sensitive to being rejected. That's just the sad part. It goes hand in hand. If I fear being rejected, of course, I'll be very sensitive to being rejected. And because of that sensitivity to being rejected, there is more likely a sabotaging behavior that is more likely to come between those people, between the person who has the fear of rejection and actually the goal or what they aim to have. Because they fear that by going to go get that specific thing, they would not obtain it. They'll be rejected. It's, again, that's the same thing as that example I was giving of the promotion, right? Again, I'll go ahead and switch the scenario and just readjust it. Instead of me applying, or I might apply actually to the job or to the promotion, I might apply to get the position. But instead of waiting for the decision to be made, right, I'm more likely to just go and tell them, no, I changed my mind. Actually, I'm not going to do it, because I am so afraid for them to come and tell me, hey, by the way, we sorry, man, you did not get the position, right? Because I am so afraid of that decision coming my way that I would just go ahead and drop out of the race early, because I do not want to hear that. I'd rather not hear that. So I would just go ahead and drop out of the race. So something as simple as that is something, again, that's self-sabotage. We're not even giving ourselves the chance to actually get the position, to even see where it goes. It's possible that even if we don't get that position, we can ask, hey, do you have the same similar position in another department or in another office, a sister office somewhere else? It's something as simple as that, but we're not doing that. We rather just retrieve and leave, right? And then just retrieve completely, because we do not want to hear that decision of, hey, we have not been accepted, or we have not been given that position as that promotion. So that's another example for people who can relate, right? When it comes to home, it's the same thing. When it comes to home and children, it's the same similar situation, right? If we have siblings, especially, and everybody, let's say, they are toys. They are during Christmas, right? Let's say just that example, because everybody, there are plenty of toys. Everyone has a toy. There's just toys under the tree, and everybody's supposed to go grab one. And there are no names on it. Just grab one, right? And because we're so afraid to be rejected, for us to be saved, for us to hear that no, don't grab it, that we're more likely to just freeze and watch everybody go grab their toy and not do nothing, right? And not act on it, and just let everybody grab a toy and leave us, and we will end up with probably the smallest toy. Or if there is no, it's possible there is not enough toy, then we just end up with no toy at all, right? Because we have this fear of hearing no, don't go get it, even though all the older students, all the kids are going to grab their toy, but we're not doing it because we're afraid to hear that no, don't go do it. So we are more likely to not even act on it, to go get the toy. And we might just end up not having a toy at all, or having probably the toy that no one wanted, right? So a simple example again for children, for younger kids, right? And so there are so many things that the fear of rejection, unfortunately, can bring out of us. And any fear, it's not just the fear of rejection. Any fear is not pleasant. Any fear, when it comes to from trauma, it is not a pleasant thing. It can cripple our lives. It can definitely cripple our lives. Cripple our lives in the worst ways possible, right? Missing opportunities, missing things, missing great opportunities in life, from being a child all the way to adulthood. And then regrets later in life, because we regret why we did not act on it when we had the chance to act on it, because of that fear of rejection, fear of not being received properly, fear of being excluded, right? So there are so many different things that fears in general can actually cripple our lives. So there are so many actions that we can actually take to overcome it. It's not just one. There are so many different things. Reframing our mindset is the biggest one, right? Destroying that mindset, telling ourselves, hey, it doesn't hurt. It does not hurt to try. Hey, you will lose any and every shot you do not take. That's how it goes, right? You will lose any shot you don't take. So there is nothing to lose by just taking the shot and see. You might have one or two shots. Hey, why not? Why not? Let's try it. One or two shots that will make it. Let's just try it. But if we don't try, we will never know. We just will never know. So it's better to just try it than to sit down and regret what we didn't even try, right? That's the bigger thing, because especially when it comes to personal preferences, limitations, and current needs, just making sure that we have the best we can do. We have the best tools available for us to work on our fears. The best tools available. It starts with us. It doesn't start with somebody else. It doesn't start with therapy. It starts with us. It starts with us by acknowledging it, that we are fearful. Investigating, where did it start? It started in childhood. Okay, what's the reason? What examples can we pinpoint in childhood that actually led us to feel that way? That's a great one. And then so once we understand that, we have to understand that not everybody's out there to get us. Not everybody's out there to reject us. So we have to kind of have that thick skin to understand that, to just tell ourselves, to reframe our mindset from being our worst enemy to be our biggest barrier to success, our biggest barrier to being able to actually achieve what we need to achieve, right? So, because we will never get to any achievement if we don't try to begin with, right? So once we understand that, just being able to reframe our mindset. Reframing our mindset is the greatest thing when it comes to fear of rejection. Fears in general are not, I would not say realistic, but I would say more like, fears are not very much rational. They're not rational. We cannot really explain them, really. Even if we sit down, we try to explain them, we cannot explain them. I used to have a huge fear of spiders when I was a kid. I just couldn't do it with their tentacles and all that. I couldn't do it. But now I'm like, they're just spiders. And now there's no rationality for me to be able to explain it. I cannot rationalize it. Why, when I was a kid, was I so afraid of spiders? And now I'm fine. I did go to therapy for it. But again, fears are just, I don't know what to even say about fears. But again, for us to just be able to reframe our mindset, right? I don't know if I reframe my mindset. I don't know about that. But all I know is that I don't have the fear of spiders anymore. So it's just something that we should just understand, that by telling ourselves certain things, we can change an entire narrative on things, and in a good way, right? By being able to understand how our mind works, and being it when it comes to fears, right? And then challenging those negative thought processes. Once we start thinking negatively, telling ourselves, well, I'm not worthy of it, or I'm not lovable, or they're just gonna tell me no, or they're just gonna reject me, or I'm not part of the group, I'm not worthy. Everybody's worthy being there, and I'm not, being able to reframe that to be like, well, they got a toy too. I need to go get one too. It doesn't have to be as hard as sometimes we think about it. We just have to sometimes try, right? And then self-validation, being able to validate ourselves, being able to say, hey, we're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Things going to be fine, right? Things going to be fine. Being able to give us affirmations, our affirmation, accept ourselves too. Giving ourselves that acceptance is one of the biggest things, that understand, telling ourselves that we understand that when we were kids, we were not too much included. We were not somehow accepted in certain things. But now that we adults, we have the power to actually take ourselves in certain places, bring ourselves in certain things, right? And being able to not be our own barrier. So accepting ourselves how we are, and accepting ourselves to push ourselves to let other people also accept us, not just already assuming that they will exclude us without even trying, right? That's the biggest thing, for us to reframe our mindset. Any rejection, any fear, period, is a way there for us to reframe our mindset, is the biggest thing, right? Now there's this, they call it the exposure therapy, right? For spiders, some people will do exposure therapy. They will literally bring spiders and put them around them so that they can, their brain can actually reframe the fear into, it's okay. The spider is not deadly. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to bite you. But again, those are safe spiders, not those venomous spiders. So exposure therapy is one thing usually they do for fears. But again, in this case, exposure therapy would not really work when it comes to fear of rejection. But we have to be able to reframe our mindset. That's the biggest thing, right? And so again, therapy is another one. Just to be able to talk to a therapist, a professional help is a great one. Talk to your therapist, being able to pinpoint actually certain examples during childhood. What happened? How did it happen? Who was it specifically that was actually, giving us the sense of being excluded from the family, or from activities, or from school activities, or whatever that is, right? To be able to just talk about it, sometimes it can bring us to understanding certain things. Some people also use cycles. I would I would not even get to that part, so I would just leave it out. I'll go ahead and just stop here again until. So every video, again, I will have to say this again. I'm going to go ahead and say it in this one. Please, please, please take care of yourself, right? So we are going to make sure that we're doing our daily activities after work, taking our self-care, which is our self-care. We can do it even during work. Some people like to have little walks during lunch. So walking around the blocks, walking around the building, walking around whatever. And being able to also make sure that we eat healthy lunches, even if we're at a cafeteria, just selecting something healthy versus something that is not, right? And drinking our water, making sure that we check on ourselves on a daily basis. How am I feeling? How am I doing? How is everybody doing around me? Because again, sometimes everybody's stress can spill on us. So if we're in an environment that's always stressful, we're most likely to be stressed. So not only checking on us, making sure that also we're not in an environment that's also stressful all the time, every time. Making sure we sleep regularly, right? Making sure that we have family members, a support group, somebody that we can talk to. Because sometimes it can be very, I would say, not detrimental, but it can be very painful or saddening to just know that we don't have no one to talk to about what we're going through, right? So it's very saddening. Just being able to talk to someone, even if it's a friend, family member, somebody that we trust, somebody that we know, they will they want good for us. They're not just there to give us bad advice, right? Somebody that is going to be by our side and making sure that we're good. And if we need to exit that abusive relationship or that traumatic environment, we need to be able to also have some people that might help, in that transition. So just making sure that we have support groups, people who can support, right? Okay, so I'll go ahead and leave it here. So until next time, please, please, please take care of yourself. Bye bye.